I love racing games. Along with adventure games and RPGs, racing games are one of my favorite gaming genres. But ever since racing games decided to go all open world and give you a house and a garage to walk around, they've been giving you a player avatar. And with that comes my big question. Why won't they let me be fat? There are much worse problems in the world than not being able to play a fat character in racing games. The subject of this video is not important, and doesn't stop me from playing and enjoying these games, but it still bugs me. And sometimes it's cathartic to focus on stupid problems that don't matter, as a break from looking at big problems that do matter. You might say, why does it matter that you can't be fat in a racing game? You're not looking at your avatar, you're looking at your vehicle. Well, hypothetical straw man. Racing games, especially more open world racing games, make you look at your avatar a lot. And to me, bigness and bearishness has been a big part of my persona and my tastes for decades now. And a character that looks like they've stepped out of some kind of Milano Fashion Week doesn't feel like a representation of me. One of my favorite things about create a character mode in gaming is when games do give you the chance to be a big fella. So what am I on about with create a character modes? Let's check out how a bunch of genres handle creating characters, starting with the first 3D model create a character mode I encountered: wrestling games. When I got my hands on one of those WCW games for the PlayStation 1 in 1999, and I could recreate my boyfriend and make him wrestle Bam Bam Bigelow, you bet I did that right away. Strangely, and you won't believe this, he didn't like or appreciate it. Even to this day, you can do some incredible things with create a wrestler modes. With facial scanning, games like WWE 2022 will, with some work, get creepily lifelike versions of yourself and your friends going.
Yeah, but he's staring at someone who's shown a lot of hustle to be in this spot. Whether he's studying tape or spending extra time at the PC, he expected this challenge and is ready for it. All night long.
And it's not just wrestling games. Phantasy Star Online way back in 2000 had a great character creator mode, allowing you to make a big boy to explore ragdoll and beat up rappies. Does it stretch out your face the fatter you get? Sure. Soul Calibur has had a surprisingly versatile create a character system since 4, and that's got only more feature rich with time.
Take it. Scarlet.
Even Street Fighter's got into the customizable character game. In Street Fighter VI, the World Tour story mode has you fighting through Monstrosity and the world as an avatar of your own design. The big guys can get a bit goofy, yeah, but it's a cute feature and fun to map a character like Chun-Li's moves onto a big old beefcake. For The Sims, having a customizable character is key. I mean, that's what the game is about. Because people want to make themselves, their friends, their crushes, and celebrities, and put them all together. So the closer they can get to the real person, the better. While The Sims has some limits with body sizes that you'll see in other games, you can be chunky rather than really big. It's still something. When I got my hands on The Sims 3, of course I made myself and my boyfriend at the time living with a bunch of wrestlers. And weirdly, you won't believe this. This boyfriend didn't appreciate his virtual model either. Nintendo even understood this with the creation of their Miis to coincide with the launch of the Wii in 2006. The character creator was notoriously fully featured, allowing you to make yourself, various forms of Michael Jackson, and of course, weird dong faces. These Mii designs are still sneakily around 18 years later, a reminder of maybe the most fun era of Nintendo design. And the king of the create a character modes, Saints Row, still lets you be a big ol' beefcake up through the 2022 reboot. For me, seeing a custom character, like a big bearded man being a fully developed lead in a game was astonishing, and honestly inspiring. I'd genuinely not seen a big dude be a likable action hero. I immediately had to both create myself and a creepily accurate version of my buddy El Chunkarino.
God, this lady walked right off the set of an 80s action movie. I was half expecting her to call me Rook and threaten to take my badge.
Oh yeah, and you can't forget that the Dark Souls series and Dragon's Dogma 2 have been letting you be big lugs for over a decade now.
I've gained prestige.
Bethesda Game Studios even gets it. Their games are intrinsically popular with people who want to create their own narratives and characters, which is why base and settlement building clicks so well into them. While Oblivion didn't have any body options, it certainly did let you mess around with faces to varying degrees of body horror. Things got better with Skyrim, which had a bit less terrifying range of sliders and could, say, let you create a beefcake orc who can try cruising warbear in Whiterun, or, I guess, some kind of Viking muscle man or enormous Dami mommy. Fallout 4 and 76 added even more customization, with sliders letting you be positively chunky. And Starfield even lets you finally be a big ol' space bear, with nary a clipping problem in sight. For most racing games, it's not even that big of a deal. Gran Turismo didn't start showing your driver until the HD era. When a racing game just had someone in a fireproof racing suit and helmet, I'm not particularly bothered, even if you can deck them out in different colors and decals. It's not a complaint I'd make against Project Gotham Racing 4, for example, because you only see your character in a couple of screens or when you're riding a motorcycle. It's a problem I didn't really have until the release of the groundbreaking open-world, semi-online racing game, Test Drive Unlimited. This game created the blueprint games like Forza Horizon and the Club would grab onto, giving you access to an enormous map of Hawaii for you to explore, and the ability to buy new cars, purchase real estate, and yes, dress up your avatar. It presents you with an awkward lineup of slim, conventionally attractive model types with no customization options. The world was incredible in 2006, but even then, I just wanted to be a big burly dude and the game didn't offer that. Test Drive Unlimited 2 in 2011 expanded the presentation and gave you a much more story-oriented experience, with you starting off as a wannabe racer / valet in the glitz and glamour of Ibiza. While Test Drive Unlimited 1 presented the glamorous houses, obscenely wealthy lifestyle, and ridiculously expensive cars without a hint of irony, in TDU 2, you do start to get the sense of a little splash of criticism about the banality of the super wealthy.
Yoo-hoo! Wake up! Where have you been? Do you know how long I've been waiting? I have better things to do than stand here. Hold on. Hi, Dad. No, I'm still at the hotel. Yes, I know I'll be late, but it's the valet's fault. It took her forever to bring my car.
The focus on glamour, wealth, and hypercapitalism runs through almost all of open-world racing as a subgenre. I mean, it makes sense, right? The supercars that bring a lot of players into racing games cost anywhere from $150,000 to outright millions of American dollars. There's an inherent support of wealth and greed in viewing these as a dream purchase. Sure, you could be in it for the engineering, for the beauty of their mechanical sculpture, for the thrills of incredible speed, but they're often part of a larger fantasy of wealth and opulence.
And action.
Opulence! You own everything!
This is why open-world racing games focus so hard, not just on the expensive cars, but all the trappings of the expensive lifestyle. Forza Horizon took what the TDU duology was doing and ran with it. Forza Horizon 2, for example, sets you squarely in Côte d'Azur in the Mediterranean Sea, from the south of France to Italy, in what has been a playground for the ultra-rich for centuries now. It too gives you a lineup of conventionally attractive young models to choose from, but this time frames it as a sort of alternate universe enormous music and driving festival that dominates the region. Adding the festival culture to this kind of game makes sense. Not only are you hyper wealthy, eventually able to afford any car or house you like, but you're part of the young and beautiful crowd that can somehow afford to spend months of the year hopping from party to party. And no one in that scene would be, say, old or heaven forbid fat, right? Sure, Colorado and Australia aren't quite as high-class party destinations, but there's Vail, there's the Sydney Mardi Gras. In Forza Horizon 4, there's the ultimate goal of purchasing 2 separate castles. Castles! Who am I? Nick Cage?
Then I dub you Lord of Bambara Castle. Well, legal custodian, actually. Don't get any ideas.
Interestingly enough, the Forza Horizon games have been using the same roster of beautiful party people for several games now, and they're still here in Forza Horizon 5 as well. There are some outliers from the focus on the trappings of wealth in open-world car games, particularly in the Midnight Club and tuner culture-focused Need for Speed games. Midnight Club Los Angeles doesn't offer a customizable player character at all. Instead, you're playing this guy. Just this guy. Being that Midnight Club is a Rockstar San Diego game, the ones who made the Red Dead Redemption games, and runs on their Rage engine, it's kind of its own thing and would definitely make a fascinating subject for a Cooper Opens Worlds review. Weirdly, Forza Horizon 5 even features a big muscle bear and a chunky bear, with the large Ramiro, aka El Jefe, and the Lucha de Carreteras series featuring Beefcake El Campeón. Forza Horizon 5 also doesn't quite have the same wealthy lifestyle fetish of the other games, although there definitely are mansions, and there's also just nice beachside small houses, and none of the characters you meet across the story are particularly coded as wealthy, just car enthusiasts, nature enthusiasts, and history buffs. While I only have experience with the Crew Motorfest and not the first two in the series, it too presents you with a list of folks to choose from, beautiful models to interact with, and a surprising lack of avatar customization for something that is essentially a live service game. Needs for Speed's Heat and Unbound also share this underground racing focus, but do the TDU/Forza Horizon select from a lineup of character thing instead. And there's a little more body diversity, and I genuinely like the lineup of folks you have to choose from in both titles quite a bit, even if I do wish there was a big boy or two available. I think one thing I find more appealing about the character choices from these games is there's much less of a focus on the lifestyles of the super rich, instead on the more grounded people you play as well as your friends and even opponent racers that you get to know. While they both eventually do expand to the super expensive side of the car world, the opening few chapters of both games are more focused on the sort of car you could still wrangle on a median income. I gotta say, I'm not particularly interested in a lavish rich person lifestyle. I don't want a castle. I don't want a mansion. Right now, a small house or a townhouse with a basement for a video game room seems like an unachievable dream, but it's something I'd love. I'm into cars, sure, but more the fixer-uppers, hot hatches, and relatively affordable used performance sedans and coupes. Yeah, I love when a game lets me play with an old Countach or Testarossa, but I haven't wanted any supercar built after I turned 18. They just seem so ridiculously expensive now, and between you and me, they all kind of look the same. No, I play racing games to play with fun old cars, tuners, and the sort of thing I could semi-realistically daydream about owning one day. So the rich lifestyle element, the Ibiza party people, and the giant homes aren't something I even enjoy fantasizing about, and that's a huge chunk of these racing games. And these lifestyle fantasies never, ever feature fat people. You might say, well, the whole bear/big guy attraction thing is a fetishization of the working class, including their stereotypically larger builds. To which I say, shut up, Emil Dorkheim, I didn't ask you! Car culture and spending so much money on ridiculous cars and tuning does have an inherent cost to it, and definitely a degree of waste. The realities of car maintenance, the environmental impact of both internal combustion engines and things like tires, or mining the elements to make electric car batteries is real. Heck, this is a reason why I prefer to keep my racing virtual. Not only is it less taxing on the environment, I also don't have to worry about the social cost of the danger of tearing around a city, the cost of speeding tickets, and potential threats to my own well-being from driving at bonkers speeds. Hypothetical strawman returns to say, "Why, good sir, there haven't even been any racing games where you could be fat." To which I say, pshaw. Pshaw, good sir. Why, I can even share a list of some big folks in racing games. Take Lester from SSX3. Sure, it's a snowboarding game, and you can tell his design was supposed to be a gross interpretation of fat people, what with his emphasized butt crack and kind of distorted spare tire around his tummy. He's still large and has a surprising fan following on the internet. Pilotwings 64 has Hawk, a beefy fellow with a kind of turn-of-the-century strongman-looking physique, replete with a fancy mustache. And we can't forget the A+ big body representation in the racing genre. A true pioneer of big queer representation. Of course, I mean Sega's Outrun sequel, Outrunners. Outrunners has what can only be called every big bear couple. The short professional one and his slightly scruffy big muscle bear partner. Been there for sure. And we can't forget about the hunky flag-waving bear, back from his original turn in Outrun. Oh, and Nintendo fans were quick to remind me about Samurai Goro from F-Zero, an always-present beefy boy, and apparently there's some series called Mario Kart, which features characters from a cult favorite series of games, like this Mario guy and Wario, Bowser, etc. Now, creating all new character sets and models isn't free. They require a lot of work. Right now, these open world racing games basically have two bodies, generic dude and lady, that they have to develop for in QC. And you can see in a lot of these create a character modes, Soul Calibur, I'm looking at you, that extending character size beyond what they've really scoped for can create a janky mess with clothing and limbs even clipping into themselves. And devs are both underworked and yet somehow being laid off en masse by gaming companies now, so this is squarely aimed at the higher-ups. Hire some folks to let people create some characters. If they want players to be really invested in their avatars going forward, giving them creative freedom with them would really help. People enjoy creating themselves in games. I mean, look at The Sims. Sure, some folks will make idealized versions of themselves, or pull a Homer Simpson fantasy of themselves as a big muscle beefcake.
I remember that meeting, and I have a photographic memory.
Legalized gambling is a bad idea. You can build a casino over my dead body. Blah, 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 blah.
Let me conclude by saying, yeah, fat people have been in racing games, but not really in those about the exotic racing lifestyle. But that's bunk. Open world racing games place your character front and center, incentivizing players to invest hours, grind new clothing, accessories, and dances. Move away from the beautiful party people lifestyle porn, and let us be the weirdos of all shapes and sizes that we really are. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into fat people in racing games on this episode of Bears and Games. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It really helps me and my channel. I know everyone tells you that, but it does. And also, have I missed any big boys in racing games? What about big ladies? Let me know in the comments about your favorite large characters in cars and car-related or speed-related gaming. Also, if you are interested in RPGs of the computer, JRPG, the console variety, check out a podcast I'm on, the Square Roots Podcast, with my besties, Matthew, Jim, and Vanessa, on any podcatcher of your choice. Thanks again, and I love you. Platonically.